Hi, I'm Jeff Hawk, and this is PropTech Today. On the program today, Jeanne Klein from Verifast. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Jeff. How's it going?
It's super. I'm happy to have you on. We've known each other now for a couple of months, and we've actually had the pleasure of meeting live and in person in Dallas, Texas, one of my favorite places in America. We were at a trade show together. So, for the benefit of the audience, why don't you first introduce yourself and then talk about your company, Verifast?
Sure. My name is Jeanne Klein. I am the National Director of Sales for Verifast, and we are an income verification platform, and we also check ID. So we direct connect to the bank, direct connect to the employer. So there's no need to verify if a document is fraudulent. We just do direct connection. And we also validate the ID. Not only that the ID is valid, but the picture of the person matches the ID. So we would catch things like, you were born in 1969, but your photo looks super, super young. That would just be like an automatic rejection. And
Sure.
then with the direct connect to the bank, we can see everyone's financial history because you've got about 46% of the population of the United States that has some sort of side hustle. So with a bank connect, we can actually see a full financial picture of the person that's applying for the apartment. We can give you behavior, if they have NSFs, what their spending habits are. So you just really know if they're going to pay your rent before they, go out to the bar. Good stuff.
What one of the things that I thought was really super fascinating when we first got to know each other, and we had done a call a while ago, you share with me that the amount of fraud that's going on inside of the rental application universe is now surpassing record breaking numbers. And I was certainly a bit shocked about some of the numbers you had shared with me, but talk about that a little bit and discuss how rampant it really is in the industry today.
Sure. So there's a person, her name is Lisa Russell. She's been studying fraud for like the last 5 or 6 years, really before it was starting to kind of trickle into the markets. And then she really started seeing a lot of fraud starting with 2020. From there in major markets, it's increased over like 40%. The numbers that we see now are about 1 in every 8 applications has some sort of fraudulent piece to it, whether that be the ID, the paycheck stub, et cetera. And then now there are people that actually create fraud for a living. They're on TikTok. One of them in Fort Lauderdale, particularly in the Broward County area, her name is the Approval Princess. And you can purchase fake documents from her for $1,500 and they are guaranteed to pass. Otherwise, you get your money back. So what's significant about that change is it went from someone just getting on Google and making a paycheck stub to a full-blown fraud industry where people are like, we have realized that this building doesn't have any fraud protection. So we're gonna fill up that building with as many people as possible because it doesn't affect them, right? They get their $1,500. They could make upwards of $30,000 a month if they find a building that has a weak link. And then that building can start to see a reduction in occupancy within the first 90 days. So they'll start to see skips and evictions, NSF fees, all of those things just sort of spiral out of control. And we've seen buildings drop as low as 10 occupancy points within a 90-day period.
So it's substantial.
Yeah, and it's coordinated. Like before, it was like there's this one person who needs to make like $300 or $400 more to qualify. So they do this paycheck stub out of zero here and there because they need an apartment, right? Which I completely understand. So the rationale has also changed. Like your normal, honest person wouldn't go to these links to get in an apartment. But with the state of the economy, it's kind of a snowball effect with fraud. So even your standard person wouldn't commit fraud, but now they're like, maybe I will commit fraud. And this person's offering to help.
Mm-hmm. How would a prospect know that a building has this type of verification, or what are buildings sharing about their posture, or do they just secretly say, okay, give us your application, and then they do some background work? So what's kind of the marketing side of having it or not having it for your property?
So fraudsters are really smart. So if in the application process or when the leasing agents tour them and they're like, hey, you're going to apply for an apartment and then we're going to screen your income. If they're fraudulent, they usually go away because there's several different companies that are out there that do this type of fraud prevention. So even the mere mention of I have a fraud prevention tool kind of steers them in the wrong direction. So people put it on their website. They put like a little Verifast sticker like on the door as you're walking in, like, don't come here if you're fraud.
Mhm.
And that seems to be very helpful just to prevent them from wasting anyone's time, really, because once they apply, their application fee usually returns if they're fraud and they realize that they can't get in. So that
Mhm.
extra little deterrent on the front end is extremely helpful for the teams.
If a company, leasing company or owner is using Verifast,
Mm-hmm.
talk about the process end to end. So let's say I'm an applicant, I come to the building, I'm told you're going to go through our screening process.
Mm-hmm.
Am I filling out paper? Am I filling out electronic? And from the point that I as the prospect, submit the application, what's happening inside of your technology platform?
Sure, absolutely. So most applications are online. So they'll go through their normal application process. And then at the end, most of the property management companies add a link and it'll say like verify your income, verify your ID, whatever their parameters are. They click on that link and it goes to the Verifast website. We scan their ID. They go through the whole facial recognition, turn their head this way or that way. We validate it. The next step is we either bank connect or manually upload their bank statements. A lot of my property management teams, though, have just turned off uploading statements in general. And they're just like, let's go bank connect. Because bank connect allows us to see a year's worth of banking history,
Mhm.
their behavior. So we can see what their average account balance is. We can also categorize all of their income. So government income, employment income, and then other. So we capture all of that gig economy, gig
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 economy.
economy. Yeah, that is so prevalent currently because everybody's trying to buy eggs. So we can also with that, most people pay their rent via their bank account. So we can also search for rent payments and do a full rental verification from there as well. So we're able
Mhm.
to see this is their rent and this is the day that they actually pay their rent, which is also crucial, right? Because you might have an 800 credit score and you pay all your credit cards first and you still pay your rent on like the 10th and just pay the late fee, right? And in the current conditions, everybody wants the rent paid first, and then you can go pay the rest of your bills, right?
Mhm.
So we give them that whole behavioral analysis. With the employer connect, we can actually see if they're live or terminated because you could have a valid paycheck stub, but you don't actually work there anymore. It's true. The other thing is we can also see the term of employment. So we can see up to 10 years of employment history. We can see their actual start date. So a lot of communities have like you need 2 years of employment verification. So we can actually show you they started March 19th, 2017. So you're getting employment verification, rental history, and full income verification all in one swoop.
From the time that the application is submitted to all of that stuff happens, hours, days, weeks, how long does it take to go through all that?
It's actually instant. So they can do for the applicant, it takes about 3 minutes because you're just scanning your face and then you're using your bank credentials to log in. Most people have that all autofill. They use their face for everything. And then your employment connect is the same way. So whatever your login is for like ADP, for example, you would log in with that and we get direct access. That turnaround time is instant. That report automatically goes back to the property manager and we can set parameters. So if they're like, this person is fraudulent, they're automatically declined. This person is approved with 90 or higher. And then there's like the in between, right? So they make 3 times the rent, but we do what's called a net cash flow. And the net cash flow might be a little low. Whereas maybe their net cash flow is really high, but then they're always in NSF and you're like, I don't understand. So
Mhm.
you can take those 3 tables and kind of decide how you want to approve that application.
If an applicant is rejected,
Mhm.
are they informed you're rejected and the reasons why, or it's rejected and then the property manager has to feed that back to them?
Sure. It's completely up to the property management company. We can send an auto reject email drafted on based on the parameters that they want us to send them. Or if they just want to see that it's rejected and handle them themselves, because typically your property management software is going to send out some sort of adverse action letter automatically anyway once you
Mhm.
reject an applicant. And those are very state specific. So that's usually what we rely on. Hey, we're saying that this is rejected. Go ahead and reject them in your software, and then they'll receive their adverse action letter. Mm-hmm.
Good lead on question. So you mentioned different states have different regulations.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the markets that you serve or the states that you could work in, is it 50 state coverage today or it's select states?
We're actually national.
So you could work in every state. And as far as management companies or ownership groups, when you're in the market looking to meet prospects for Verifast,
Mm-hmm.
is there an ideal profile of a client that would be best suited to use your product? Or I could be an owner that just has one building.
You could be, we actually, interestingly enough, we started Verifast in the single family owner space. And then we went from individual landlords to conglomerates that had build to rent or single family homes that had 3 or 4 single family homes. And then in the last year or so, we've ventured into multifamily. So we're also the engine behind some property management software. So you may not know that we're processing things, but we are the engine that's providing that verification. So
When you were first looking to join the company, because you're fairly new here, what got you most excited about the company and B, the technology?
I mean, honestly, I spent 17 years in the multifamily space. A huge chunk of that was as a leasing manager, specifically on lease ups. So, not to toot my own horn, but I lease like 10 or 15 apartments a week. And so we save per application 2 hours of time. So, if you have a ton of applications, this is a one smooth flow versus emailing, hey, can you send me your paycheck stubs? Hey, can you send me your bank stubs? Hi, if you want to move in tomorrow, I need all your information. So I was sort of passionate about alleviating all of that manual work and stress on an on-site team because I've been there, done that. And I really liked the idea of just rescuing people from all the paperwork, right? Because we have online leasing, we have online payments, but we're still doing a lot of these things manually and there's tech to fix it. So I was just really excited to provide a solution that prevents fraud, but it also prevents it efficiently.
John, what is the typical onboarding look like? So let's say I'm a building owner, a portfolio owner, call you up, we do a call. Yep, I love this. I want to sign up. What's the process for a company to become onboarded onto the platform? How easy or difficult is it?
Sure. So it honestly just depends on their needs. So we have a standalone solution where you can send the link out to your prospect and it can be done in like 48 hours. That's just ready to go out of the box. You can start using it. Where we get a little bit slower is if you want to go like full integration, meaning we're going to be a part of your application flow and we're going to push information back to your property management software. That takes about 30 to 45 days, just depending on the property management software that you're on. But if you just want to start immediately, we have a standalone solution. So
when companies first reach out to you, are they reaching out because they think it's a good idea generally, or the industry is kind of seeing the rate of fraud, or have they really fallen prey to a lot of problems and they're like, that's it, we're done with this, we better get a solution now or we're going to be in a world of hurts? Like, what kind of gets them on the road to say we better do something about this?
honestly, it's all three. You'll have managers, owners, operators that have seen a massive uptick in the amount of fake paycheck stubs and the fake bank statements that they see. Or they're on a current solution, but it's got gaps or holes, right? They're like, this is great, but it doesn't do ID. It doesn't do the bank connect. I can't get a full picture of this person. So either they've experienced fraud, their current solution is just not smooth for the applicant and smooth for the on-site team. Or they heard a rumor that someone was destroyed by fraud and they're like, I don't want that to be me. Like, what do you have? Yeah.
Interesting. When you look ahead, we're about a quarter of the way through the year now. Q1 is over. We're into Q2. When you look at the roadmap of what's coming in the product or what will come for the balance of the year, what are you most excited about, or what's like on the horizon? If you could share some, coming soon to Verifast, what would that be?
So we're slowly adding, the interesting thing about us is there's a lot of companies that have Bank Connect, but we actually connect with several different fintech companies. So we actually base our connection on that person's bank. Let's say you have PNC, for example. One specific service doesn't support PNC, but another service does. So we actually act as a platform to increase that bank connection rate. Fintech has only been around for a few years. I'm sure everyone's heard of like Rocket Money and Truebill, and they're like, let me show you where you're spending your money.
Mhm.
You're spending way too much on Spotify. So that tech's been around for a while, but they don't support all banks. So the benefit is us if we have a much higher connection rate than someone that only uses one connection partner. Same thing with the ID, and then same thing with the employment.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot to unwind because I think what you mentioned at the top of the call, there's many people that have their regular nine to five, and then they're a bartender, a musician,
Yeah.
another thing, and those side hustles could account for a lot of their income, where before they may have very difficult time trying to explain that or piece that together. So I think in certain cases, yeah, it's teasing out fraud, but I
Mhm.
would imagine other cases actually improving the candidacy of the renter. Also, it's helping them to really demonstrate that they're a solid prospect.
Yeah, I mean, it's opening doors for people, and I also think that's essential, because before, like way back in the day, because I started on typewriters, we had a form, and if someone was a server, they had to send the form to the server. They would write down the server's manager. They would kind of write down what they kind of estimate in tips, and then they would have it notarized, and that was our only real way to like prove their income. Whereas
Mm,
now, if they put any of that income in the bank, we can see it. So, looking at the roadmap, though, the current administration is really cracking down on junk fees, right? So, your application fees and your admin fees. The average application fee nationally, according to Rent, is about $75, and the admin fee is around $200, which,
mm,
depending on the size of the property, equates to about $50,000 to $100,000 in income that the multifamily industry could be losing per property.
mm,
So when it comes to that, you got to figure out a way to qualify applicants that's not necessarily credit and criminal. There's already been 7 states that have said, okay, we capped it at $20. You can't charge it at all, or you can only charge what the company you use charges you. So
yeah.
it's a major changer. The other thing that's happening is there's change coming down the pike, and I read this everywhere all the time, that a credit and criminal background, maybe the criminal will stay, but the credit is becoming discriminatory, so to speak, right? So they're saying that you can't use someone's credit to see whether or not they're qualified for an apartment. So then income becomes crucial at that point. And we do have some managers that are like, we want to verify all of their identity and their income up front before we even
Mm,
spend the money to do the credit and the criminal, or they may not even do a credit and criminal because this person's got it together, right? So there's a lot of things changing with what's coming down from the current administration. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, there's always been talk of it, but I think after we saw 40% rent increases in 2020 and in 2021 before they started to cool in 2022,
mm.
we were kind of asking to be regulated. And I hope that they decide not to regulate the multifamily industry, but you never know. We kind of shined a light on ourselves just a little bit.
Right.
So I'm hoping they find other things to worry about, but you never know.
From the time a prospect comes to the apartment, so there's this upfront screening,
Mhm.
their worthiness as a resident gets checked out, they pass muster. Once they're living there, is there an opportunity to continue to use the software and kind of track them to say, oh, Jean is a good tenant or resident? I want to show to you that every month she pays on the 5th of the month.
Mhm.
And maybe one day she's going to want to buy a house or a car, that this tracking data could be used to demonstrate the worthiness of Jean in the car dealership, the home purchase, the whatever. So is that something that Verifast could do, would do, might do?
I can't say too much about it, but we are headed in the direction of like a membership status so that you are always approved and you would be able to take your verified income anywhere and say, hey, here's my income for the last like 90 days, 2 years, whatever. And now you just show up verified, right? So in the future, that's kind of the direction that we're heading. I'm sure you've heard of like pet screening, for example.
Yeah.
You have a pet pass, right? And
Yeah.
so way down the road, we are tossing around the idea of doing like a verified pass. So they would pay like a monthly fee and it updates all of their information, or a quarterly fee,
Yeah.
and provide it to them.
It's interesting because I have had on some other guests that are in the industry also, different solutions,
Mm-hmm.
but they realize that some of the residents, this is their biggest rent is their biggest expense
Mm-hmm.
on the list of things that they have to pay for. But sometimes they may fall short if they're trying to qualify for a mortgage or other things because they don't have a gigantic credit history per se, and this could be a means to demonstrate credit worthiness. So it is an interesting concept. I think there's value for people that eventually would like to try to buy something and transition away from being a renter if
Yeah,
the
and
day.
we do actually have a mortgage arm. So we do actually work with mortgage companies to verify people's income, because that was all being done manually until we kind of arrived on the scene. And so now with that direct bank connect, mortgage lenders are able to see everything. So if they are paying their rent out of their bank, then all that history is there for them to view. And that's currently happening.
That's super. So as we get towards the end of the program, I guess when you look at the multifamily industry or property technology industry, what excites you the most about it?
What I would like to do is for multifamily to be like applying for a loan. So you apply online, everything gets verified, and you instantly get approved with conditions, or denied right on your phone. And that's the
Mm.
direction that we're trying to head with all of our property management companies, with integrations and making sure that someone knows immediately, right? They're not waiting for a day or two, or when that person has an opportunity to process that application. Plus, you're kind of like, as an applicant, you're waiting in angst. You're like, okay, did I pass? Do they need anything else from me? I really love this apartment. I want to move in because it's their
Yeah,
home.
sure.
So that's where our ultimate goal is, to provide the solution where they pass their credit and criminal, they verify their income, and then we just provide them, you're approved. Like if I think that's the flow for SoFi and a couple of the other banks that you see. You just apply online, give all your information, and it just says approved. And here's what you're approved for.
Right.
And I think that's the roadmap.
Yeah, I would agree. I was at RedCon 2023 in Brooklyn about a week or so ago. A lot of push or emphasis now on customer
Mhm.
experience, resident retention, becoming more of a frictionless industry, coming out of the Stone Age with a lot of paperwork. The on-site people are, as you described, they're inundated as is. So, using tech properly to kind of take out some of the painstaking paper shoveling process. And I think what's happening to multifamily real estate, generally speaking, and it was interesting, one of the panelists there talked about it. You're not directly competing with Amazon or Uber or any of these big, tech brands that we know, but they're demonstrating that things could be done very, very quickly and very, very easily. So now, like, the bar has kind of been set or reset to, well, why can't the application process be that? Like, I could order something and have it, the same day. So why
Mhm.
can't I do an application the same hour or the same day? So I think that's what pulls
100%.
a lot of need for this.
Exactly. The new renter today expects an immediate response. And so that resident experience, or that future applicant, the applicant experience, is really crucial for them deciding, okay, you know what, I'm going to go down the street because I just did this all online. I gave all my information and they called me in 30 minutes and said I was approved. So I think to be successful, especially with how competitive the market is that's the direction, that should be the focus of the on-site team, is how do we make this frictionless for someone to move in? Because that is their everyday life. Your everyday life is like, I ordered a comb and Amazon dropped it at my door in like 30 minutes, or I've got GoPuff and I had a craving for some Cheez-Its and now they're sitting on my door. So
Right.
that's the renter profile that's looking to rent. This is their life. They've grown up in technology from, birth, basically. They had a cell phone by 3
Yeah.
probably. And so
Right.
everything is at their fingertips. So we do have to meet them at their current lifestyle. And I think that's, we're trying to like catch up. Like, how do we get there as quickly as possible? And so I'm really glad to be able to provide a solution to help them get there as quickly as possible.
It's super. So we do see your domain name, verifast.com, on the screen. But if someone wanted to reach out to you directly, what's your email? What's the best channels to find you on?
Sure, absolutely.
Give them all the lowdown on where to find you.
I'm also on LinkedIn. You can stalk me. No, I'm kidding. So verifast.com. There's a contact us. You can fill out a form. Otherwise, you can just shoot me an email. It's just my first name, JEANNE.Klein, KLEIN, at verifast.com. I also have a great cell phone number, 954-279-5332. I'm an excellent texter, wicked fast. So you can always just text me if you need some information.
Super. I'm glad we had a chance to do this episode, because I think it is an important topic. I think you're also a great representative in the industry of thought leadership and people that are really trying to take their on-site experience and drive the industry forward, which is always great. Those are typically my favorite guests because they understand the life and times of the on-site property manager.
Yeah.
In the work that I do with smart technology, very much sensitive to that. I understand that there's a lot of struggles in the day-to-day. It's not all peaches and cream, and tech is certainly an enabler to make things better, but there's a lot to consider and understand when you're choosing a solution. So I think you're a great resource for a lot of people that are probably thinking about this or struggling with it. So I'm pleased to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful.
Yes, super. So I'm Jeff Hoch. This is PropTech Today. Remember, property technology solutions today lead to real estate profits tomorrow. And that's a wrap.